Hello, everybody. So this is a new series on the channel called Next Week in Music History. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's Next Week in Music History. I'll have to watch it back later and find out. But here's the thing. We're going to talk about the coming week, next week, in music history. Things that happened in the history of music. Whatever. I don't want to get confused with all of the next and this. Like some people call the coming week this week. I call that the week we're in. And last week was the week that we had before. And so this is why it's called Next Week in Music History. And I've got some note cards, which means, it's totally, legit. And so we're gonna jump right in, if you don't mind. Starting out with so next week, I consider next week May 12th through the 18th. May 12th through the 18th. Here are birthdays, because I have them written down here. Birthdays in between May 12th and May 18th. Here we go. May 12th, Burt Bacharach, Steve Winwood, Billy Squier, and Matt Mangano from the Zac Brown Band. On May 13th, birthdays: Richie Valens, Mary Wells, Stevie Wonder, Darius Rucker, and Buckethead, who I probably should know more about, but I don't. May 14th, Bobby Darin, Jack Bruce, and David Byrne. David Byrne, just as an aside, real quick, I just watched Stop Making Sense. And Talking Heads are not my favorite band, but you can. I'm jumping on the bandwagon here and saying Stop Making Sense is a really, really good concert film. Even though, like I said, Talking Heads are not my favorite band. Really good film. That's not breaking news, by the way. Everyone else thinks it's great too. I'm just now finding out about it. Anyway, moving on. May 15th. Eddie Arnold, Brian Eno, and Mike Oldfield. May 16th, birthdays: Liberace, Robert Fripp, Boyd Tinsley from Dave Matthews, Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, Janet Jackson from Janet Jackson. May 17th, Bill Bruford, Paul Di'Anno, original lead singer for Iron Maiden, at least the one before Bruce Dickinson. Enya, Trent Reznor, Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block, also original singer from Iron Maiden. That's not true. But I have it written down here, so fight with me if you want. May 18th, Perry Como, Albert Hammond, Mark Mothersbaugh, George Strait, and Jack Johnson. So here are the birthdays, May 12th through the 18th. One other thing that we do have on this show next week in music history: sound effects. How about that? How about that sound effect? All right, jumping into the history. Here we go. On May 12th, 2008, Neil Young had a spider named after him. Biologist Jason Bond discovered a new species of trapdoor spider. And he named it, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce this word. Half of it's hard, half of it is not. I'll put it on the screen. Myrmicophilia. That's first name. Neil Youngie. It's middle name and last name. Myrmicophilia Neil Youngie. Neil Youngie. Okay. Neil Youngie. May 12th, 2001, Perry Como died. May 12th, 1977. And this is a good one. That's a good one. After being dropped by both EMI and A&M Records, the Sex Pistols found themselves signed to a new label, Virgin Records. Sex Pistols signed to Virgin. You can't make this stuff up. 1972, the Rolling Stones released Exile on Main Street, considered by some to be their best album. Not by me. Good. I don't think it's their best. 1965, also, the Rolling Stones recorded I Can't Get No Satisfaction in Hollywood. They recorded it in Hollywood. It's not called that. Keith Richards had come up with that guitar riff. He had come up with the guitar riff while staying in a hotel in Clearwater, Florida. May 13th, 1985. Bruce Springsteen married Julianne Phillips. 1985. And the marriage lasted for a solid 3 years. 1988, they were divorced. And oddly enough, my aunt just gave me some newspaper clippings that she's been holding on to, and this is not a lie, from 1985. Look at this. There you go. There's Bruce. Nice little picture of Julianne here. I've also got this. Bruce bids bye-bye to his bachelor days. How good is that, right? Look at this guy in high school. High school Bruce. Anyway, that marriage was, I'm not going to throw these. Marriage was on May 13th, 1985. 1971, on his 21st birthday, get this, Stevie Wonder was paid all of his childhood earnings. He was signed at like age 11. On his 21st birthday, they paid him $1 million. He had earned $30 million, but I guess total for Motown, but he only got paid $1 million. Motown strikes again, right? In 1967, May 13th, 1967, Monkeys' second album, More of the Monkeys, went to number one. And here's a fun fact. In 1967, only 4 albums reached number one for the entire year. But in that year, you had Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, number one for 25 weeks. The Sound of Music soundtrack was number one for 17 weeks. And the Monkees' first and second albums, both released in 1967, they both reached number one as well. Moving on, May 14th, 2015, B.B. King died in his sleep. May 14th, 1998, Frank Sinatra died after suffering a heart attack. May 14th, tough day in music, for sure. On May 15th, 1997, Courtney Love sold the mansion that she shared with Kurt Cobain outside Seattle for $3 million. It sold for. And the garage, I guess it was a garage, with the room above that that Kurt killed himself, that had been torn down during renovations, so that was not there. But she sold the house in 1997. 1981, May 15th, 1981. Don't worry, I'll get better at this. Former Sex Pistol, former Sex Pistol John Lydon's new band, Public Image Limited, performed a show in New York, standing behind a video screen while a recorded tape of their music played. Kind of taking a chance there, Johnny. And they were eventually booed off stage. May 16th, 2023. A rare version of Beatles' White Album was auctioned for charity. Raised £2,000. It was a first press with a misprinted front cover. So on the name The Beatles was supposed to be embossed on the front cover, raised, right? But the first bunch, it was stamped, from what I understand. I'm not a Beatles expert, nor do I claim to be. But that's what I understand. So anyway, a stamped version of the White Album was sold for £2,000 in 2023. In 2010, Ronnie James Dio died from stomach cancer. 1998, Keith Richards fell and broke his ribs while reaching for a book of nude art in his Connecticut home. Now, I don't know for sure if he really was reaching for a book of nude art, but I choose to believe it. Boom. May 17th, 2012, Donna Summer died of lung cancer. 1990, Chad Channing's final live gig with Nirvana. Dave Grohl took over in September of that year. 1987, Tom Petty's house was destroyed by fire. Tom Petty's L.A. house was destroyed by fire on May 17th, 1987, and he's definitely not the only musician to lose his home in a fire in L.A. That's for sure. In 1967, Glenn Campbell recorded Gentle on My Mind, which won him 4 Grammy Awards. In 1963, the very first Monterey Pop Film Festival was held. A film festival. It's not a film festival. It's a folk festival. See, look, it says folk right there. A lot of good the cards are doing me, right? Start over. May 17th, 1963, the very first Monterey Folk Festival was held at over 3 days in Monterey, California. Monterey, of course. Lineup included Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and a very young Jerry Garcia, who performed with a group called the Wildwood Boys. Wildwood Boys. No word on if Neil Youngie was there. I don't think he was. On May 18th, final day of the week, next week. May 18th, 2017, Chris Cornell died by suicide in Detroit after playing a show with Soundgarden. 1980, Ian Curtis of Joy Division also died of suicide on May 18th at his home in England at age 23. And finally, folks, May 18th, 1975, Tammy Wynette was number 1 in the UK singles chart with her song Stand By Your Man. And fun fact about Tammy Wynette, Tammy has been married 5 times. So I'm thinking maybe it could have been Stand By Your Divorce Attorney. Oh, stop. Fake audience. Anyway, that's it for next week in music history. If you dig this kind of stuff, subscribe and like. That would be great. I'm going to do these every week. Unless you beg me to stop. We'll see what happens. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good week. Next week in music history is brought to you by Vynyly. Classic curated Vynyly. Tune in next week to hear John say... A lot of good the cards are doing me.